Welcome to In Good Company, where relationships drive results, with your host, Lisa Kilray. In each episode, we explore how great leaders build trust, inspire teams, and turn meaningful connections into real success.
Hi, I'm Lisa Kilray, host of In Good Company, where relationships drive results. Today's episode is sponsored by WSI eResults. At WSI, we help manufacturers, B2B organizations build their strategic foundation they need for AI-driven growth. Our work spans digital strategy and roadmaps, SEO, content development, and multi-channel digital programs designed to drive measurable bottom-line results. In fact, recently, a client of ours started working with us, and within a few years, they said, "We are so glad we began this journey with WSI several years ago," because what happened is they are getting inquiries throughout the world for their multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment, mainly because of the work that we've done and the digital exposure that we've been able to develop for that company. So to learn more, visit www.wsi-manufacturing-marketing.com. And now let's get into today's conversation. Today I'm joined by Dean E. Carter, newly named CEO of Instill.ai and co-author of Employee Experience Design. Dean has spent more than 2 decades as a senior executive and board leader at globally recognized organizations, from Fortune 50 companies to purpose-driven brands like Patagonia. His work and thinking on employee experience, leadership, and the future of work are regularly featured on global stages, podcasts. Dean, welcome to In Good Company, where relationships drive results. I'm really glad you're here today with me.
Lisa, thank you so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
You're welcome. I appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule, I'm sure. You're a co-author of a book that has recently gone live and published, and you have a new job with a very exciting opportunity. So when someone looks at your career on paper, they see impressive titles, big brands. But when you look back, what's the belief or principle that's guided how you've led people over the years?
It hasn't really changed that much. My guiding principle was founded by a moment when I borrowed a neighbor's lawnmower, and when I was probably in, 4th grade, and mowed some lawns, made a little money, and then I returned it, and I got home, and my dad said, "You returned the lawnmower?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Did you clean it up and fill it full of gas?" I was like, "No, I returned it kind of pretty much as it looked before. It had covered with dirt, and He said, "Go get it, fill it full of gas, clean it up, and leave it better than you got it." And that's been my philosophy about life, is leave people, leave organizations, leave my communities, leave anything that I'm involved with a little bit better than I find it. And that's my goal, and it's on my measurement of success. Is this better? Is this better off for my time there? So and I can talk a little bit about that with people and communities, but that's my guiding North Star.
That's kind of the essence of what you're about.
It is. It really is. And I think about it every day. Like, how can I improve my community? How can I make an impact on the humans that are here and have a commitment that I guarantee you, or I work towards, as a result of this, you and your life are better, hopefully.
Yeah, I think people get so ingrained in KPIs and numbers, and you can really take a step back and just say, is it better than it was before I got here? And I think that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great way of looking at things.
My favorite measure at the moment, and there's several, but my favorite measure is during my tenure across Fossil and Sears and Patagonia and ultimately Guild. There are 28 heads of HR that are leading across, big, small, significant companies all over the US, that were in junior roles when I started. And so that is, if that's the only legacy I have, is a lot of people in senior roles making a difference.
Yep.
That's one measure. It's only 28. That's an easy thing
Yeah.
to remember.
Yeah. Well, it's not a tiny number. So that is definitely an accomplishment. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about your book, Employee Experience Design. You
Yeah.
challenge the idea that employee experience is about perks, programs, or engagement initiatives. You argue it has to be intentionally designed. Where do relationships sit in the design, and why are they often so underestimated?
They're at the foundation of the design. So we talk a little about the concept you'll hear in the book over and over is design with, not for. A lot of times you go to consultants and they tell you, here's our best practice, here's what everyone else does. And we design things to what everyone else is doing versus to what your own employees need. And this concept really came to light during one of the authors, Mark Levy, was at Airbnb, and they really thought, how do we rethink the entire approach to employee experience? Maybe we think about this a lot like customer experience. A lot of times we don't design things and design products without talking to the customer first. And so this is where the idea really gained a lot of traction. It also was, across the US a little bit. We were doing that kind of similar things at Patagonia in terms of really understanding the employee, making sure that I always said, let them be the humans you hired. Let them be the humans you hired. You hired a human being and you hired them because they have a love for something or a passion or they want to do something. For example, at Patagonia, we hired people who were environmental activists. If you didn't make room for them to go and be a part of the environment and be a part of making change, then they're miserable. And so, in addition to doing great work and doing good work and working along good people, you kind of have to let them be the humans that you hired. Know that, and you do that, and then you can design very meticulous experiences around the people that you hired by just listening to them and engaging them in the conversation. They'll tell you.
Right. Yep. I agree with that. What tends to break first when relationships aren't healthy
Mm.
in the
Lack of
workplace?
um, the biggest issue is I'm going to do this and you don't. Like keeping your word is really, really important. People, when you say, I thank you for your feedback, or I want to listen to you on a change employee experience, and then you don't do anything with it, then that breaks trust. Like, then why would people tell you again? And if that continues to happen over and over, that you ask for information, you don't take action, you don't do anything with it, the whole thing stops, trust decays, and and then it's infectious. Behaviors like that are infectious. When they do that, then it makes permission for them to do the same thing, to not keep their commitments. And I think the fundamental thing is keeping your word. And that's how you build trust, and that's how you break it fast.
Right. Right. I mean, you use the word trust. Why do leaders so often default to process instead of trust?
Because process is easy to measure. Very easy to measure. You can get process one, process two, process three, process four, and you can have an amazing, incredible process. And in the end of it, it isn't one that people like. They weren't engaged in building, and the process was done to them, not with them. If people are engaged in anything they build, they're much more likely to be engaged with it to make sure it works. I think that's a challenge
Yeah.
with some of the, at least I think you see this in the news all the time. All these AI initiatives that people are buying AI products and implementing them without thinking about the problem to solve or engaging employees first in terms of building trust. And a huge chunk of them are failing. They're not getting the value that they thought they were going to get, not because it isn't a great product or a great idea or a great concept, because employees weren't brought into the process and trust wasn't built in the beginning. And they don't trust that this isn't going to be in my best interest, or they feel like I may be giving you information about my job that can use to eliminate my job. All these things, anytime you implement new and you involve someone, you can have an amazing process. You can have best implementation. You can hire a ton of consultants to get it right. And if you're not trust building the entire time, it won't work.
Right. Yep. I agree. So, another thing you introduce in your book is the PrEP framework: purpose, relationship, enabling, and performance experiences. If a
Yeah.
leader listening today could only start with one of those, which creates the biggest ripple effect and why?
Hmm. Well, it's hard to pick that apart because if you don't drive performance, then that's not going to work. But I really think the second one is really important. A lot of people would go for purpose because if you don't start there, that's the natural thing. But I believe it's about relationships. I believe in relationships don't start with, hey, I'm going to form a relationship with you in the next 5 minutes. They're long term. They're like a garden that you weed and you nurture over time. And I do think that when you're this particular framework, you can have a great purpose, but you don't have a relationship. If you don't have a relationship, it's not going to get to performance that you want. So I don't know. It's all again part of trust, but I think part of building relationships is I understand you, I get you, I value you, and I hear you, and I'm going to take action as a result of that. That's how you build relationships over time. I value you. I am proud of the work that you're doing, and I'm going to make a difference here because of what you mentioned to me or what your thoughts are. So I don't know. That's how you build relationships over time and be consistent. Sometimes inconsistency in leadership. You never know who the person's going to show up. It's like, what kind of, you people talk in the room like, okay, who are they today? I've heard that so many times about leadership. Well, what are they like today? What's the temperature? And that isn't a way to build a relationship. Consistency. Now, being human, we all have good days and bad days, but consistently inconsistent doesn't build relationships.
Right. That's a very good point. So you've led through very different environments, from purpose-driven brands to massive, complex organizations. When things get hard, restructuring, change, pressure from the top, how do leaders protect trust without avoiding tough decisions?
Hmm. So a lot of people in my experience go to the Patagonia part and like, of course, that was an amazing experience. A great company. It's got a great brand, it's a great product. Everyone loves Patagonia. What what they don't know and won't talk, don't ask about much is my experience at Sears. As the head of HR for Sears. It wasn't just Sears, it was Sears and Kmart. And as you know, those companies aren't around anymore. And it wasn't that long ago. And so we
Right.
were in a really challenging situation. And um, at the time, or not long after we were there, the founder, owner, CEO of the company was listed in a magazine as the worst CEO on the planet. So
Ugh,
we had
ouch.
ouch, and not that I wrote that or anything, but that's just a fact.
Yep.
And we had a really challenging situation. So what I did is like, what do I do with this? And I think it's important for leaders to be transparent about the situation and then give hope. So I had a town hall with all the 6,000 people in HR, and I said, "We are on the Titanic. I see it. You see it. The iceberg hit both ships, and they're both going down. And there's nothing I can do about it. I can't undo the iceberg, and this thing's halfway down by the time we all got on it. So here's what I promise you. There are a lot of people on this boat that are terrified and scared and working hard and still like concerned about their lives and situation. We're going to be the band. We're going to be the band on the Titanic. And we're the best darn band ever. You're going to play the best tuba. You're going to play the best drums. You're going to sing the best. You're going to be amazing at this. And when this boat goes down, you and you and you and you will all be on a much better boat than the one you got on. I promise you." And that was a rallying cry for, okay, we embrace reality. As a result of this situation, I'm going to learn from a really tough situation. We're going to make really tough decisions. But at the end of the day, it's all in the learning process. And that of the 27 people at 28 I mentioned, most of them came from Sears and Kmart. Most of them.
Wow.
They had, and
Huh.
people, when you talk about that 5 year time, the people on the leadership team in HR say that was one of the best parts. Now they look back on it, that was one of the best moments of their entire career on the Titanic. And there's ways you don't have to have an amazing person like Yvonne Chenard to have an amazing experience. You can carve things out and create your own experiences within the company, even with the worst CEO, even with two dying brands, even in challenging situations, even on the Titanic, you can
Right.
you can engage people and get them super stoked about working
Wow.
together. Yeah, and learn.
Well, right. What a great story and what a great analogy that you applied to a very challenging and difficult time for the company and the people working at the company with you and for you.
They all mentioned
That's,
it. One of the other concepts was, sometimes when ships are going down, it's like every person for themselves.
yep,
We had a little bit of
typically.
that. Yeah, resources were scarce, everything. So there was a little bit of a every person for themselves. So my follow-up was all of us on a giant rubber life raft. And I said, okay,
You made it. You made it
yeah,
to the raft.
well, you're in the rubber life raft, but it's on a river and it's bouncing and it's splashing and it's unpredictable. And what I need is all of you in the raft. I don't need you poking holes in the side of someone else's part of the raft because the whole raft goes down. If anyone falls out, pull them back in. I need you laser focus. And when I say row, I want you to row. And when
Yeah.
you see someone fall out that I can't see, or someone else is poking a hole in the other side of the thing, either fix it or don't do it and pull them back in and continue all pointing the same direction because I don't know what's around the corner. I can't
Yeah.
predict it. But I can tell you, if we're all keeping an eye out on the whole boat, because it's a rubber life raft, then we're going to be fine and get through this. So that was the
Right.
second follow-up that we needed after the first one, because we still had a little bit of cultural issues. And again, just listening to them and like, what if I didn't do that alone? I was like, what if I approached it like this? Or like, I think that's gonna work. So
Yeah. I'm just
really good
curious,
leaders behind me.
how long were you on the Titanic and the life draft at
five
Sears
years,
slash 5 years in that crisis
5 years.
management? That's a long time for you and the team.
It was a long time, but we really did amazing HR. One of the things that we did at the time was we leaned in on data because we had a lot of it. And the things that we did leaning on data, um, we were able to increase the level of employee experience in our stores and our warehouses. We reversed two unions. People got rid of the unions because their experiences were so good, they just eliminated
Wow.
them. We um,
Wow.
we had the HR team, the turnover went to zero. Like nobody left. They all stayed until the end, of course. But those are when you start doing good things and people feel like even on challenging situations, they're doing meaningful work and learning with really people that they enjoy. Even in challenging situations, you can
Right.
get.
Yeah. Well, you rallied the troops because everybody would have bailed far beyond 5 years,
I think
well before
so.
5 years.
Yeah.
So if you were able to keep them together for that amount of time, that's success. So many leaders say they value people. In your experience, what's the real difference between leaders who say it and leaders who actually build strong, durable relationships
Hmm.
and value people?
We talk a lot about values. They're on walls, and most company have a list of values somewhere. I talk a lot about the power of valuing your values. They're a verb, not an action. They're not a static, not a noun. Like value means you behave every single day of showing how much you value this. For example, if you value women at work, let's just say that's like one of the things as a foundation of the company, we
One of
value
the fundamentals.
one amount of we value women at work. Yes. That's very important. One of the things that was challenging, not as much now, but back then, is if a woman had a child and was breastfeeding. In order to continue breastfeeding, you have to either pump or continue feeding the child. When women had to travel, they would still either have to pump, and they would have to throw out the breast milk because there wasn't a place to store it, and you certainly couldn't take it on the airplane. And we heard from women that one of the worst experiences of their lives was pouring out their breast milk in the toilet in the airport. That does not feel like value. And so what the head of HR at Patagonia, or one of the people that before me, she came up with a thing called the traveling companion. And if a woman is traveling and they're breastfeeding, they can take their kid with them on the trip to work and someone to take care of the kid while they're working. I've been in boardrooms where someone brought in a child to nurse during a board meeting. Every single day, that woman says, this company values me, they value what I do, and they take action about it. They don't say like, you don't have to say, I value you. I show that I value you. And that
Yes.
matters so much more than a plaque on the wall.
Yes. How long ago was this that Patagonia did that, that made that policy?
That policy has been, so I was in Patagonia in 2015. That had to started in probably 2000, way before, because this was
Wow.
Shannon Ellis, the person that was there for a very long time. It happened to her, and she's like, never going to happen to another woman. And she
Yep.
implemented it. And when I go to any other company, it's the first benefit I put in place.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that. I didn't have that benefit when my daughters were babies. So I can't even imagine what it would have been like having that as a
A
benefit. It would have
benefit.
really changed. Yeah. Would
Two of
probably have
the
indebted me to the company.
two of the women that took advantage of it, one at Patagonia, took advantage of three children, and another one at the company Guild that I was working with. Both of them became CEOs or co-CEOs of the company. The thing about the traveling companion program is there's certainly women valued it, but what would happen when they couldn't go? Someone else went. So they didn't get the client relationship. They didn't get the reward for closing the contract, or they didn't have
Yeah.
the learning in that moment, in the camaraderie that happens. Someone else was getting that. They continue to grow their careers, take care of their kids, and move forward. So it wasn't a stop. And by the way, they come back to work faster too.
Yeah. Absolutely. I
They're
can
like, oh, I
relate to
can bring my
that.
baby to work. I don't have to stay at
Yeah.
home
Why
and nurse.
not?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's great. I love that story. So, you've spent much of your career shaping employee experience and leadership from an HR and people strategy lens. And now you've stepped into the CEO role at Instill AI. How has that shift changed the way you think about decision making, accountability, and relationships at the top?
Well, there's a real difference between consuming a product and building a product. So I have I have to run a company and that is focused on amazing cultures. All my career, I've been trying to figure out how to understand culture, how to scale it. At Patagonia, I was trying to understand how to capture what this wonderful, beautiful culture was and don't mess it up. But as we went from 250 million to $1 billion, how do we preserve who we are? So what I have to think about in a CEO role is I got to think about payroll. I got to think about every single person. I got to keep them moving. I got to keep them inspired. And at the same time, I have to keep them focused on building a product that is game changing for what I believe the profession is, and keep them focused on that. And it's easy to get distracted on product or a new bright shiny thing. And with AI, you can wouldn't it be cool if I keeping the team laser focused on what our purpose and our mission is super important. And I didn't have to worry about product when I was head of HR. I just worried about one thing. As a CEO, you have to worry about everything. You have to, you have to think and worry about
Yep.
your every single thing. So it's why I took the job. I wanted to worry about everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry, but I wanted to learn. I'd learned a lot as being a head of HR, and I knew I would learn a lot in being this role. And I feel like I created a model for a head of HR that other people can follow. And now I hope I create a role model for a CEO that maybe I don't have to be the standard CEO. Maybe I can be one that clearly values people, values the business, values the customer, values their life. Maybe, maybe I'll do that.
I think every CEO can be their own CEO. So obviously you're the one in charge.
I'm the
So
one in charge. Yeah,
you're the one in
I own
charge.
it. I own it.
Yes. So Instill AI sits at the intersection of culture, data, and AI. Some leaders worry technology will weaken human connection at work. How do you see AI strengthening relationships when it's used intentionally? And where do leaders need to be careful? I love this question.
I do too. I'm thinking a lot about this question. Most people got their intro to AI like this. A breakdown of the skills and tasks of the company for efficiency. That's the intro to most companies. By the way, I'm going to plug Gemini on your computer, start using it. I'm going to track you using it. I'm going to make sure you're using it, and I'm going to track usage rates. Second thing is, tell me what your skills and your tasks are so we can break that down. And it's not going to impact your job, but
Yeah.
tell me what your skills and tasks are.
Yeah.
Everyone knew the answer to that question. Here's why I love, and those are important things. I understand companies need to be efficient. I do hope that companies use this to augment people's role, not just replace people. I don't know that's going to happen completely. What I love about Instill, what Instill does is listen to how people communicate in meetings. Every single day is taking the information. And at the end of every meeting, I get a note that said, "Hey, Dean, here's some things you did good that built trust and collaboration and creativity and innovation and psychological safety. Keep doing those. Here are three things you could have done just a little bit better." And so this type of AI helps you keep your job. This is type of AI helps you learn every single time you have an interaction with a human for the kind of investment that you can do in this. Before, people would go in a meeting and they would talk about someone else and like, oh, they talked over someone else in the room. They'd whisper and they'd never get the feedback. In Instill, it says you talked over someone in the room. Or maybe this person didn't get a chance to talk. You should have asked them. As a leader of the room, I get feedback every single time that all the people in the room probably wouldn't give me. And then I get it instantly. And then I get a collection of those over the month or the year about how I'm improving. I'm really excited about AI that actually every single minute, every single meeting, you have the opportunity to get better. Not replace your job, get better at your job. And it's not like you don't have to go to a training class. You don't get like coaching or feedback. Like in something super awkward of a performance review. You don't have to fill out an engagement survey or a disengagement
Yeah.
survey. You just show up, you do your best, you learn. It tells you, how can you get a little bit better? And you do
It's
it.
real time. It's real time and
It is
unbiased.
learning. And that's the other thing. AI has no skin in the game. You're
Nope.
like, or no prior relationship or anything. It's just telling you facts. Hey,
Yep.
based on tons of research, this kind of behavior could get you different things. It's not coaching, it's not judgment or feedback. It's giving you insights that you can choose at the very next meeting to be a little bit better
Yep.
every day.
Yep.
Yeah, there are very few. Most of them have to go to learning to get these things, and you don't have no idea if you apply them or not. Kind of thing. We talked about LMS systems for a real long time, and CEOs were like, what's our value out of this? I don't know if they're applying it or going to the right courses. This one, every single time you meet is a chance to learn. Every single time you meet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, as you look into the future of work, what do you believe leaders must unlearn and relearn if they want to build organizations where people and results truly thrive?
Mm. Well, connecting both people and results. Yvonne Chenard talked a lot about running the company as if it was going to be here for 100 years from now. And I learned a lot during the 10 years that I was there. And Patagonia had on-site childcare, and it had been around for 30 years by the time I was there. There were people in leadership who grew up as children in diapers on the Patagonia campus who are now leaders of the company. If you
Wow, it's
thought
amazing.
about
Where does
it,
that happen? I
I
mean,
know it's the greatest succession planning on the planet. So that it is,
exactly.
but the thing when I ask people about value in your life, Do you do you value, if you have a spouse, do you value your relationship with your spouse? A lot of people say yes. If you have children, do you value your children? Like, is that one of the most important things in your life? Everyone who has a child raises their hand, the most important thing in their life. Has any company ever asked you this question? As a result of working in this company, do you have a better relationship with your wife, your family? Do you have more time to spend with your kids? Do you have more time to get outside and or do the things that you love? I believe that in addition to productivity and innovation and speed, we have to start asking the questions about how this is impacting your life. And we did. We asked those questions at Patagonia. I've asked them at Guild. And it boiled down to a single question after I navigated it for a while, and it's in the book. And it's this. This is one of the questions, but it fixes everything. For what I put into my work, I believe the company gives back equal or greater value to my life. So I think we need to think about work as an exchange. I give, the company gives back value. I give value, and it's not just money. It's the most important thing I value in my life, my family, my health, my long-term ability to walk, my long-term ability to not get cancer and mental illness and all these things that we have lots of things to fix for. I think the future of work has to think about a more regenerative approach to human beings versus an extractive approach. And I think when we do that, because we're all playing with the same pool of talent. Stop
Yeah.
pretending like, okay, I'm gonna, extract as much out of this talent and I'll just get another one. We're gonna have limited resources, and at some point, the talent pool we're really good, but it's gonna get tighter and tighter. And you want to keep your best talent. So if you can answer that question and they can answer that positively for what I put into my work, I believe the company gives back equal greater value to my life. They'll be more productive. They'll be more cooperative. They'll be more innovative. And they'll walk up the stairs 2 steps at a time. And thank you for it.
Yep. And they will stay with you longer.
I'd said Patagonia was like, well, even the 5 years that no one left at Sears once we did that. But I joked about Patagonia. It was the Hotel California. People checked in and they did not check out. They were there. They were there for life.
Well,
But
then their children work there. So
and
that
their
is,
children.
I don't
Wait,
think you were exaggerating.
I saw 3 generations. They had people who worked there who at
That's
younger years
crazy.
had kids. Their kids had kids in Patagonia childcare who are now, left, are now, going to college.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
could work there
Wow.
someday
Well,
too.
what amazing stories. Dean, thank you so much. This has been such a thoughtful, interesting, and motivating conversation to learn more about your experiences, what you've accomplished, and how these other companies operate. So, for listeners who want to go deeper, where's the best place to learn about employee experience design and the work you're doing at Instill.ai?
Well, for Instill, you can go straight to instill.ai. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I post regularly about employee experiences, about culture, so I'm active in those spaces. And the book is available on Amazon. You can see it under the #1 bestsellers in HR. And you can also find it at Barnes& and Noble and hopefully at your local bookstore very soon. Hard copy pre-order came out 2 months ago, and hard copy comes out in 2 weeks at the end of January.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that book and the accomplishment and making it to #1 on Amazon. That's definitely an accomplishment to be proud of.
Thank
So
you.
before we wrap up, I always like to end with one reflective question. When you look back on your career, who is one leader who had a lasting impact on how you lead today? And what's the most important lesson you took from how they showed up?
Lisa Lepiska. Lisa Lepiska. No, not even
And
close.
who is she?
Lisa Lepiska. When I left my job at Pearl Vision, I wanted a break. I knew I was a head of learning and development, but I wanted to be a head of HR, and I wanted to learn something new. I interviewed with Disney and they said, you're not cut out for HR. I interviewed with Nestle and they said, you don't have an MBA. You'll never be a leader in HR. I interviewed with the International Freaking House of Pancakes, and they said I could not get an entry-level journalist position. I interviewed with
At
Lisa
IHOP?
at IHOP. Wouldn't hire me. I couldn't get a job at IHOP, an entry-level HR job. So Lisa Lepiska interviewed me at Pier One, and she gave me a hug at the end of it. And she said, you're going to be the head of recruiting. People are going to love working for you. You're going to do a wonderful job. So I'd never run recruiting before. She's going to do that. And then I got in employee relations. She moved to Fossil. She was the head of HR for Fossil. She brought me over to Fossil. I was there 6 months, and she said, I just want to lead learning and development. I went upstairs, and the CEO, on her recommendation, said, you're now the head of HR for Fossil. So at a young age, she believed in me twice. And I try to find that person too, who you believe in, that you open a door for, that you make a difference in their life. And so Lisa Lepiska believed in me twice. I did have one other man who believed in me, and I just want to share this really quick.
Please
When I
do.
was at Pearl Vision, the sodomy laws were still in place, and you certainly was zero protection for gay and lesbian employees. And people were being put in prison and jail for they would break into homes and do this thing. So it was very not safe to come out. There's a rumor at Pearl that I was gay and I should be let go and didn't deserve to work at the company because of that. When I found out about it, I went to the office of Roy Wilson, who's the head of HR. And I said, Roy, there's something going around about me, and I need to let you know that it's true, that I'm gay. I feel like I'm doing a really good job here. But if it doesn't work here, I'm going to have to find someplace else to work that's going to be safe for me. And I just want to let you know that. And he said, oh, Dean, you're totally okay here. I'm so glad you're doing such a good job. You have a long career here. And I'm so sorry that this is going around. You are completely safe. That was the day that I decided to be a head of HR and do that for other people to make sure they have a safe place, no matter what's going on in the world, that when they come to work, it's safe and they can be their best. Those two people, big difference in my life and shaped how I treat everyone else.
What a wonderful story to end on. Thank you for sharing that, Dean. It's very, very powerful and very courageous of you, I'm sure, at a very early part of your life. And thank goodness they reacted the way they did.
Thank goodness. I happen to have
Yeah,
two really amazing leaders, and I hope to
right.
someday be as good as either of them.
Exactly. So thank you for joining me today. Listeners, thank you for joining the show. If you need any more information, please feel to reach out to me or to Dean on his book or instill.ai. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks for listening to In Good Company, where relationships drive results, with Lisa Kilray. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay connected and keep building relationships that drive results.